Okay, I'm going to show you how to set up individual trims for different flight modes using OpenTX. So I'm going to open up, I have already connected my Taranis to the laptop, and these are my models. I'm going to open up my reptile flying wing. So this is what I did to set it up. First thing you need to do is set up 3 flight modes. First one, I call it takeoff. Second flight mode, cruise. Third flight mode, aerobatics. And then you need to assign a switch to the flight so that you can change the flight modes. So I have assigned switch D. So when it's in the upper position, it's in takeoff mode. Middle position, it's in cruise mode, and then down position, aerobatics. Now I have also set up different rates for each flight mode. So for my takeoff mode, I have 50% rate for both elevator and aileron. And for cruise mode, I have 60% rates for both aileron and elevator. And for aerobatics mode, I have 80% rates. And both rates are set up using global variable 1 for elevator and global variable 2 for aileron. So GVR1, GVR2. Now for the trims, for the takeoff mode trims, you have to set here that you have to set it to be on trim for both aileron and elevator. For the cruise mode, you have to set your trims again to on trims for both aileron, elevator and aileron. And for the third flight mode, which is the aerobatics, I used the trims from flight mode 1, which is my cruise mode. So, or you can set this to be your own trims as well. Then that way you have 3 individual trim settings for each flight mode. But for me, I just wanted 2 flight trim levels, one for takeoff and one for cruising, and aerobatics. So I used the trim from mode 1, flight mode 1. And then on the inputs for the aileron, you had to assign, or the weight, for the weight you had to take global variable, and you had to select global variable 2, which you set up earlier on the flight modes. And then also I have set up export to be 70%, and same goes to ailerons, the global variable 1, which is aileron here. You can see that global variable 2 for aileron and global variable 1 for elevator. And then on the special functions, you can assign a track to call out every time you flick the switch to your flight mode. Takeoff, I have set up takeoff and cruise, here. So every time I flick the switch to takeoff, it will call out takeoff mode. When I'm in cruise mode, when I flick the switch to the middle position, it'll call out cruise mode. And so as soon as I take off, I usually switch to the cruise mode. And that's pretty much it. Again, I'll just go through this, the flight modes. 1, global variables 50%, own trims, flight mode 2, or the cruise mode, same global variable 1, global variable 2, 60%, and then own trims, flight mode 3, aerobatics, same global variable 1 and global variable 2, 80%, and use the trim from flight mode 1. And in the inputs, aileron global variable 2, elevator global variable 1. So let's simulate and see what happens. Alright, I'm in takeoff mode. These are my trim settings. So if I flick the switch to the cruise mode, there you can see it changes to whatever the trims I have set up for that particular flight mode. So go back there, and also check the outputs or the servo outputs. There, and here you can see the rates, how it changes, 50%, 60%, and if I go to the aerobatics, 80%. Now say if for takeoff you find your wing is rolling to one side, or you find it the wing is stalling because it's got too much elevator, so you want to trim it out. So I want to reduce the elevator, so I'm gonna move the trims up, and also because it's rolling, I'm gonna level it out using the aileron trims. And then, but that does not affect my trim levels or trim settings for the cruise mode. You can see it's still the same. And say if when you're flying in cruise mode, you find okay, you still need to trim it out, so you need a bit more up elevator, so that's the up elevator. And also you probably find it rolling to one side, you want to level it out, you set your trim level, and you fly around. And then if you go to the takeoff mode, that it has its own trims, it hasn't changed those trim settings there. So this way you can have your own trim settings for individual flight modes.
Takeoff mode. Cruising mode. Takeoff mode. Cruising mode. Takeoff mode. Cruising mode. Takeoff mode.